All right, here is my workbench. Kind of a standard messy workbench like everyone has. Clamps and a board in case I use that for clamping stuff, and an old t-shirt that I use for wiping things, a light that I drop down in acoustics, all the different sizes of tapes, Weller soldering iron, and on the bench, my 1967 maple cap Telecaster. No skunk stripe. Original everything but the paint job. I don't know when that paint job was done. It's pretty good. You can see a little grain through it. And the original frets. These would have been, I believe, something like 43 tall when they were new. Now they're 23. And pretty uniform. It is a good fret leveling job. It's just out of frets. And so I've been trying to decide what I'm going to put on this. I have jumbos on some other guitars. You know, when you take a Charvel, giant frets, plays like a dream. I put 6100s on this one, and I continue to level them down. They're wide, which feels good, but they were so tall that no matter how low the action gets on it, the action still feels a little high. I have 6100s on this. This one was done by someone else, and I keep taking them down as well. The other thing I'm not crazy about on those is that 35-degree bevel on the fret ends. If you're doing pull-offs on that, you can pull it right off the frets, so that needs to be fixed at some point. But the lower I get it, the less of a problem it's become. So for this, I don't really want the vintage, but I don't really want the jumbos. So I think I'm going with 6105s. Now the only way I could find to get Dunlop 6105s was by the roll or by the pound. And since I don't plan on doing a whole bunch of guitars, there's frets that I have under there. I think I'm going to use these Jescar 5595s. The action on this right now is about 5/64 at the low E and the high E. And that's hard to do holding a camera. I like to use this machine rule. I think it's a little more precise than that other thing. And it still is really hard to get your fingers under, especially up here, to get bends. And so I think just more meat on the frets will fix that. The relief on it is pretty low. I haven't put a feeler gauge on it yet, but you can barely see a little light between the frets there. You're using a slotted straight edge, a little bit of space there. Put a capo on the first fret. press the last fret, and at the 7th fret, we have 1.5 thousandths relief, which is as low as you can get. That's the smallest gauge I have there. Fretboard's pretty clean. I was thinking that here might have been evidence that someone had changed a fret before, because it looks like there might have been a little chip out there, but I cannot find anywhere else. And looking at the finish, goes right up to the edge, but that may have been cleaned away at some time, or it could have been refretted. It's hard to know because people will scrape away where the finish coat goes up on over the frets. I don't know, this may have been refretted. I was told it had never been refretted. If they did, see that one looks like it has not. If they did a really good job. And like I said, it may have been that they tried to take them out the top on the 1st fret and made those little chip outs and then pushed the rest out sideways. I hope so, that would be nice. And then I will be able to just take them out the top rather than pushing them out sideways. So Dan Earlywine says that if they were put in sideways, you should take them out sideways. Everyone else on the internet says the same thing except for Joe Glazer. Joe Glazer says that if you push them out sideways, you route out the entire groove, causing damage to the guitar. People also tend to get split outs on this end when they push them out sideways, and they have to super glue them in. I do not see any of that on this guitar. You can see here that the lacquer does come up over the frets, and so I would say that these are the original frets. So that leads me back to my dilemma of, do I want to take them out sideways or pull them out the top? There's lacquer coming up on the fret. Slot depth there will be about 60 thousandths with some allowance. And the slot width should be 23 thousandths. These Jescars have a tang width of 20 thousandths. And should fit in there. The tangs will reach out there 35 thousandths, which is standard. So I should not have to widen these fret slots at all. Should be able to just clean them out gently with a fret saw to remove debris and put them back in. So another problem with removing frets when they're this low is sometimes it is hard to grab the ends without doing any damage to the fretboard. These Hoscos are pretty sharp, and hopefully we'll get under it when I decide to take one out the top. And then the blade will gently raise it while the flat part protects the wood underneath from chipping out. And you can use protectors, metal protectors, fret savers, to stop that as well. Now, if you cannot get under that with these, you have to take a very sharp chisel and put it there and tap it a little bit to try to raise up an edge so that you can grasp it with the fret puller. The trouble with hitting this with a chisel is that if you're not very careful, you can knock this tang over and widen the end of this fret slot, which I've done it once, and of course the first time, and discovered not to do it again, and it turned out fine. It's just that if you inspect the guitar as closely as we are right now, you can see that that area is just a little wider right there. Man, this is killing me to do this. Messing with the original 67 kind of breaks my heart, but look at those grooves, and there is nothing left to take off of these frets. It definitely needs a fret job, but it just kind of breaks my heart to do it. But I want to be able to play this, and I haven't been taking it to shows because I find it much more difficult to play than the others. Okay, so here goes. Let's do it. Strings out of here. Oh, missed one. Gone. We're in there pretty tight. Maybe you can feel out the back of this. I feel like it's catching frets in the body as well, or catching threads in the body as well. There we go. X out. Original color under there looks blonde. Don't know whose initials those are because they've kind of been painted over. Something there, and there's the 3 September 67. Lots of room on the truss rod. And we'll put the body away. Okay, I've done 3 so far coming out the top. And I feel like they just keep getting better. And it makes me feel like I don't want to take them out the side because of what the tangs would do down the entire track to it when I'm getting these out the top with really no chip out. Looks like pulling them out of any other guitar. Okay, 4 out. Here we go with number 5. I'm gonna mop a little water on it. Get some steam down in the wood. melt any of the gunk that's under there. There's no glue in there. Now I cannot grasp these with the pullers. They're too low on the end. And so I'm taking a sharp chisel, putting it right under the edge, and getting between the neck and the fret. Need to reclamp this side. Okay, now maybe I can get on it with the fret pullers. Right at the edge. But boy, they are hard to get under. Okay, I'm under. Now I'm going to heat again. The steam can soften the wood so that hopefully we don't have tear out. Just very slowly, about 1 millimeter bites, and keeping the flat part of the puller flat against the fretboard and letting the blade of the puller do the work of raising the fret out. Sorry, I'm trying to let you guys see. I keep blocking everything with my left hand. If I move the camera over to the other side, then I block it with my right hand. There we go. Awfully pretty. I just don't know that you could do any better than that going out the end. People always complain of chip outs on that end when they do that, and I don't want to mess with that. It's going well enough coming out the top, so maybe the old rule that you got to take them out the end is a myth. Maybe just taking them gently out the top is the way to go. Okay, they are all out. Turned out really good. No chip outs anywhere. The first fret is the ugliest, which was ugliest from the get-go. But I think that's just sweat and grime, because whoever owned this guitar before obviously played everything right here. Of course, up here, they look about as good as if I'd taken them out sideways. So I brushed water on the frets, steamed the wood, softens wood, everything comes out. Of course, we're gonna want it to be good and dry before we press new ones in. And that'll be the next step. Got to start bending frets. Okay, now for the fret bending. And I got carried away and cut a bunch already before I remembered to video this. I don't remember where I got this. It was one of the luthier supplies. And basically set it to try to get something a little tighter than whatever the radius is you're doing. I'm doing a 7 1/4, so it needs to be a little tighter than that. When I first bent it, it was too tight. And so then I had to take this bearing out, put it back over here, straighten the wire using those, and then set it and redo it until I got the right diameter. Goes in here like this, winds around like that. I pay a little extra attention on the ends. There you go. And then got my fret gauges here, or my radius gauges, and I want it a little tighter than a 7.25, and that's a bit tighter. I wouldn't mind if that were just a little bit more towards 7.25, but when it lays across here, you can see it touches both sides and just a little gap in the middle, and then that will press in and keep the sides down. Have my 21 frets cut here. Got a little piece left extra to check the slot depth with. I'll file off the barbs on it and put a little cut and a bend in it, and then I can make sure my depth is fine, but according to the measurements it should be. Got a little cheap fret saw here, and I'm just cleaning these out. I don't want to add any depth. I just want to drag out debris out of that to make sure all my fret slots are clean, like so. Okay, so here's what it looks like when I press the frets. I've already got 9 of them in, and I'm using fish glue today. I could use hot hide glue, but it's such a pain in the neck to heat up and use for this. And lots of people use fish glue. It dries hard, does a good job, and it's easier to work with at room temperature and clean up. So I lay a bead in the slot. Got a little palette knife here, kind of work it in. I still have the tape on the other side where I'd masked off and filed and sanded and chamfered these slots where they were. Wet paper towel here. I've been just kind of peeling the masking tape off as I go. Put the fret in the slot, kind of balance the overhangs over the edge. Set with a fret hammer. And then down it goes. I have it in a neck caul for back support. Lock that down, let it set for a minute. I can clean up some of the excess glue while I'm waiting. And then I do silly things like run a gauge under it, make sure that it's pressed down firmly. Make sure it's well seated. I use a light. This is often around my head. And my magnifiers here to look, make sure that's seated like I like it. Sometimes where these edges are rolled, I overbend them a little bit with the hammer. And there you go, looks real nice. And then I usually do this over the trash can so I don't lose the parts or the bits, but there's our Hosco nippers. They're made for stainless, but they work so well. With the others, it's possible to squeeze so hard that you twist or bend the ends. And with these, you don't have to squeeze nearly as hard and ripping off the ends. Looks real good. Another one down. Time to move on to the next one. Okay, so the video got long. So I'm gonna sum it up here. I went ahead and finished up without recording it. What I did after I pressed all the frets was I used an Amazon fret end file and 0 degrees and got rid of most of the excess. I didn't touch the wood here on the neck. Then I used a Music Nomad 3 degree. Comes in a 3 and a 35. I used the 3 side on this because if you use a 35, you have a big bevel here. If you're doing pull-offs on the first fret, you'll pull them right off the bevel. So I want to preserve as much fret length as I can on this, yet have it as smooth up to the fretboard as I can. And so I did a 3 degree with this, not getting all the way down to the wood. Then I used a StewMac fret file and individually got every single fret end on both sides right down to the wood. Rounded them off all ways. I used my Musicon fret leveling beam. I have 120 and 240 grit. Marked all the frets with Sharpie and leveled them until everything was clean. I put an Irvana nut on it, trimmed that down to fit, filed the edges, buffed it. Let's see, after the frets were leveled, I used my Music Nomad fret crowning file, crowned all the frets. Then I get into micro mesh. I have 1500 to 12,000 grit micro mesh. These are all available from StewMac or on Amazon. And all this is masked off when I'm doing that with all of these different widths of masking tape. So it's all clean and pretty. Shine those up with micro mesh. Then I use my Dremel tool with a buffing pad and some semi-chrome polish. Now I inherited this from my grandmother who's been dead about 20 years. This is an old bottle of stuff. I don't know if I'll ever run out of it. Been using it forever. It doesn't take much, just a little bit on each fret, and then you Dremel tool each one, and they shine like mirrors. String it up, set the intonation. I have it at 3/64 on the low side, 3/64 on the high side. Plays like a dream. These 1967 pickups sound amazing. It turned out perfect. I have nothing on the end where I was chiseling out to raise these up because they were so low that I couldn't get under them with the fret pullers. I had to raise them with a chisel. I didn't have any mistakes there. Didn't widen any of the fret slots. It all just turned out great. Very happy with it. And that's how you refret a 1967 Telecaster.